Hey everybody, welcome to another video, and in this one I want to talk about something that I know I have addressed in live streams, or not really addressed, I've just spoken about in live streams, gone over very briefly, but it's something I thought I could translate into a rather entertaining video. So in this video, we are going to be exploring whether or not Assassin's Creed Syndicate made fun of us, and more importantly, the Assassin's Creed franchise. If you haven't played all of the Assassin's Creed games to date and want to play it safe, I wouldn't recommend watching this video on the ground of spoilers, so do consider this your spoiler warning. But for those of you who are still here, let's just get into this topic, shall we? Assassin's Creed Syndicate was released in late 2015, and now that you look back at it, was quite clearly just a bit of fun to tide us over until Origins was ready. However, also when I look back, I see evidence that Syndicate was also mocking us. Now, just a quick disclaimer, if you consider all criticisms, no matter how big or small, as hate, then this is probably not the video for you. And yes, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is a thing of the past now because Origins and things, so they're improving on everything, but I thought the video would be fun. Now, I do not think that Assassin's Creed Syndicate was a bad game, it was actually pretty decent. However, for its Assassin's Creed values, I found that the game severely lacked. But let's move back to the question. How did Assassin's Creed Syndicate make fun of us and its own franchise? We'll start with the most obvious point, which is Jacob Frye. Everyone's favourite assassin/idiot. Yes, I just called Jacob Frye an idiot. After Connor in Assassin's Creed 3 and then probably again after Arno, fans criticised those characters, saying that they needed to have a bit more personality. A lot of fans wanted a character with a bit more, well, character. A lot of people found Connor and Arno to be pretty bland. Jacob Frye was definitely not bland. Jacob Frye couldn't help but make himself look like a fool at every opportunity, forcing his humorous, light-hearted personality every other sentence. Let's just say that when fans said they wanted a character with more character, humanity and charisma, they didn't mean they wanted an assassin comedian. And not the good kind of comedian either, the bad kind. The laugh at your own jokes while the room fills with the noise of crickets band. Jacob Frye cannot help but make cringy, self-aware or otherwise silly jokes. Sometimes these jokes are so poorly placed that they dismantle the serious tone the scenes they're in are supposed to possess. And although occasionally you might get a cheap laugh out of his wit, other times it makes you want to facepalm so hard your head looks like a scene from Drop Dead Fred. Now, if I'm honest, I was not a fan of Connor, and I'm not a fan of Jacob either. How is that even possible when they tried to improve on my criticisms that I had about Connor in Jacob, and the same criticisms that I might have had about Arno in Jacob? How can they have not made a better character? You see, when we said we wanted a character with a bit more charisma, personality and humanity, we mean we wanted a compromise between serious and otherwise just human. With Jacob, they went too far with the humour side of things, given that a character needs a little bit of a sense of humour, I find. But with Jacob, they went a little bit too far, and you get the vibe that he doesn't take himself seriously, let alone his role as an assassin. And in my opinion, I feel as if Jacob Frye came out as a worse character than Connor, because Connor at least takes his role in the Brotherhood and himself seriously. Jacob just gets about making unfunny jokes, compromising the Brotherhood left, right and centre, killing people. Sure, he might be fighting for the working class of London, but you can't help but think that he's doing what he's doing because he wanted a gang called the Rooks, and now that he has it, he wants to be the cool kid. Now, how is this making fun of the franchise? During development, there's no way that nobody would notice just how over the top Jacob's humour had become, and yet they decided to stick with it. Fair play. But when fans said they wanted a character with charisma, they didn't mean we want a character who can't take themselves or their role seriously. And the other massive giveaway that this is actually a mockery of the franchise is the fact that Jacob Frye cannot help but make very self-aware jokes.
I'm sure you can put this to better use than I can.
Oh, what's this, Greenie? Assassin Christmas.
Shut up. Jacob actually does mature into a more serious character. Oh, but what's that? It's in a DLC, yes. You have to spend a bit of extra money on a DLC just to see a handful of lines of dialogue in which Jacob seems to have matured into a more serious character, before Jack the Ripper then abducts him, and we don't hear him speak again. So yes, maybe Jacob didn't take himself seriously in the main game, but here he's all mature in this DLC, oh, and we just stabbed him in the eyeball and now he's gone. But that's hilarious. They addressed the main issue with Jacob's character from the main game in the DLC, and then he was gone before you know it. I'm sure Jacob's character in the DLC would have been a good one, but I'd have liked to have experienced it instead of, you know, this middle finger. Enough rambling about Jacob's shortcomings though, and let's talk about the DLC itself. Yes, or more specifically, something that happens about 20 minutes in. So yes, Jack the Ripper is one of the so-called greatest mysteries of all time, and a DLC on any mystery must be done right. If it's on a great mystery like this one, it must be done perfectly. So why not reveal Jack the Ripper's identity within the first 30 minutes? Great idea. You know, I didn't see that one coming, and I honestly still don't. Narrative genius there, you just completely ruined the mystery that the DLC is about. I kind of took this as either a really stupid narrative decision or an outright piss take. Jack the Ripper is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries going, Ubisoft make a DLC about it, and ruin the mystery about 30 minutes in. Good joke, Ubisoft. Good to know that Ubisoft's sense of humour is at least better than Jacob's. Did the developers sit around and think, right, we've got a DLC to make now, let's ruin it in one move? Oh, I know, why don't we reveal the Ripper's identity really early on? And now I think of it, it's actually kind of funny. Moving on, Syndicate tried to give itself a ridiculous running gag. And that was of course Frederick Aberline, a supposed master of disguise. It is quite funny to see a fully bearded man wearing a dress and putting on the most awful old lady impression to ever assail your ears. However, constant encounters with a poorly disguised Aberline didn't go too well with Jacob Frye's killer sense of humour. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but let's think about it more. Aberline is a police officer, yet here he is wearing a dress. He also happens to let Jacob Frye and Evie Frye get away with killing loads of people. Some of them are police officers. Shouldn't Aberline be arresting them, as opposed to taking away their corpses in a carriage and being like, he's dead now, what am I supposed to do with a corpse? So, he doesn't arrest killers, yet he's a police officer. Now, okay then, he's doing his job brilliantly. Good to know this particular peeler ain't fussed if you kill half the police force as long as you bring him some criminals. If you bring the criminals dead, he expresses disappointment but then rides off to take the corpse away to the Nick and doesn't give you any form of punishment. What, this guy's a cop? What's going on? Sure, I might be bringing down the criminal underworld of London, but at the same time I'm killing police officers, riding carriages on pavements deliberately to kill civilians. I'm killing horses because their owners are chasing me, and otherwise destroying your bloody city. Why aren't you arresting me? Now, in fairness, the police force back then was supposedly a joke anyway, so I can imagine this joke actually being fairly well placed. But you know how in previous Assassin's Creed games the guards would hunt you, they would try to kill you and things like that? Well, the guard equivalent, the police, in this game don't give a flying fuck. Moving on, we need only loosely acknowledge that Mary and Disraeli's dog is called Desmond. Yeah, naming the dog after a character so significant to the franchise who was killed off in the most cack way imaginable is almost certainly a self-aware joke, and a middle finger at that. I really don't need to press further on this one, but that dog is laughing at us. Evil prick. That final point alone is enough to tell you that the game really didn't take itself seriously. The database entry alone acknowledges that this was a self-aware joke. I feel as if this was sort of like a jab at the modern day story we could have had, but nah, Desmond had to go ahead and touch that bloody orb in the end of Assassin's Creed 3. Oh well, at least it made for a good laugh from Ubisoft's part. See, I could keep going because examples keep coming to my head, but I think that for everybody's sanity, I should stop. My point here is Assassin's Creed Syndicate was just a bit of fun to tide us over until Origins was ready, and that's all it ever was. A bit of fun, for us as the players in a lot of respects, and for the developers who got to mess with things and make a joke out of the game while attempting to deliver an Assassin's Creed experience. But it is what it is. It's not a bad thing, it's just what it is. I mean, it could have been handled in a way that made it a little bit less of a joke, but they made a joke out of it nonetheless, which is fair enough. Syndicate was never major, they were just making the game to tide us over until Origins, I reckon. But hey, from an experience point of view playing the game, it was alright, it was good fun, but For its Assassin's Creed points, it was both a joke and not very well delivered in that respect. But oh well, it is what it is. Origins is coming. There's no need to suggest improvement because improvement is coming, presumably. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you think about all this down in the comment section. Be sure to go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter. I'd really appreciate that. Or you could add me on Snapchat where I post shitty jokes all the time, but that's up to you. And I will see you all very soon in the next one with another video.